So the first time I drove up to the coal region, which by the way became an annual obsession for at least a decade to follow, I was with my friend Amy and my friend Laura. And we were listening to the CDs from the 70s, and I played the years they were born. And there was that track from that horror film, and I'm trying to remember the name of the horror film, but it was that xylophony track. And so I was driving, and it was playing this song that was very creepy, and we were going into this place with all this history, and I went to the wrong place, and I parked, and I found out I was in the wrong place. We got back in my car. It picked up exactly at that place in the song, right? And then when we finally parked in the right place, the music ended in this bizarre soundtrack resolve. That was our introduction to Mauch Chunk, or Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. And there's a mansion. Asa Packer's mansion is there, and I think for about 40 years it was just abandoned. But you can go visit it now, and there's only two things that are not original in the whole mansion. One is a washing machine motor that they use to run the huge orchestra thing that they're the Victorian version of their stereo system, basically. And then the other thing is, I think, a rug from Kmart. Everything else in that house is absolutely original. It's the wildest thing. And then not far from there is the Mauch Chunk jail, and that's where 4 of the 10 Irishmen were hanged on the morning of June 21st, 1877. And it's hard to believe these structures were built roughly at the same time, because one looks medieval and one looks Victorian. But they built even the entryway into the prison cells scaled down, because these large Irishmen would have to crouch to get in and out. And so Jim and Betty Lou McBride own the prison, and sometimes I'll just go up on the off season and they'll let me come in, and they've shown me the dungeon, and the building kind of breathes. It's bizarre because anthracite coal, which is what all of this battle was over, gives off this really warm and amazing heat, and the prisoners would shove things into the ducts because it would just get too warm. So now every spring there's a certain time of year where if you go into the basement, the building kind of releases an article from 1880. It's just really wild. And in the back of the prison brochure, there was this poem written by Michael J. Doyle, and it was called Prisoners. And there were a couple of legends, several actually, coming out of the prison. But this one was this kid who was about 20 or 21 years old, had tuberculosis, I believe, and was not in good health as it stood. But he left a poem on his cot, so that after he was executed, this is what he left behind for his family. And I was just very deeply moved by it. And Alan and I kind of talked about it, and we, shaved it a little bit so that it would fit into a very simple song structure. It's got this refrain that when I tour it, I try to teach to people. And by the way, this song is probably the most haunted. Sometimes the electricity goes out when I'm playing it and stuff like that. But the chorus goes, "Still, alas, I cannot rest while my parents, they do sigh. I pray that God will keep them blessed, grant them heaven when they die." And usually I do this kind of intro in the solo version, which is how everything ended up, which was talk about your 360s or your 180s or whatever that is. So so this is usually very audience interactive. I try to get people to sing that refrain. And that came about because I would just cry. And I needed a chance to cry it out and come back in with the next verse. So feel free to sing along. Prisoners, as long as we are innocent and our conscience lighted,